Wish that you were better.
Record to cloud. Joel, the floor is all yours, my friend.
Awesome.
Let's get started.
Guys, if you missed the replay from yesterday, definitely encourage every one of you guys to go back and watch it. I dropped the link in the chat. And if you go back and watch it, it's going to give you an amazing foundation of who you need to become as a human being and as an entrepreneur to be able to scale your agency to $10,000. If you do not go back and watch that, you're going to miss a few extremely key components to helping you hit that 10K mark. So with that in mind, who has not seen it? Drop a 1 below if you have not seen it. If you have not seen it, drop a 1 below. Okay, so there's definitely over 10 of you guys, over 20 of you guys. Cool. What I want you guys to do is after today's call, go back and watch it because we talked about how this 10-day workshop is going to play out, what the goal is. And then we really dove deep on who you need to become and how you need to level up first as an entrepreneur to be able to then go out and execute on everything that I'm about to teach you guys over the next 10 days. So with that in mind, if you did miss it, I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to keep going with day 2. I can't repeat day 1, but day 2 is all going to be about niche selection. So regardless, it's going to be super valuable no matter where you're at. And that being said, let's dive in. If you guys are ready, drop a 1 below, show some love, and let's do this.
Hey, how many of y'all did the homework from yesterday? For those that were here, actually. Did everybody, you want to show it? You want to show it? Oh my God, nice. Look at all of you. You got a lot of action takers in here, Joel. That's what I love about this community. There's a lot of people that do the work. Jason's got it framed. Okay, I just wanted to see the
Did it help? John, did it help for you? See, John showed me his, well, now he's frozen. Who isn't frozen that did? Oh, John's back. Who did the homework?
Yeah,
did
man, it was extremely extremely helpful, but it made me get real, with myself. And like you guys had said, to actually physically write it out, it brought it for some reason. It just played this game with your mind. It just brought it to a whole other level of accountability. And yeah, it was killer, man. Great stuff.
Love it.
Thank you.
Great to hear. Sweet. All right, guys, here we go. Day 2 is all about niche selection. Now, all of you guys want to know how to pick the perfect niche. I know every single one of us has asked, which niche should I go after? And today we're going to break down everything that you're ever going to need to know about picking the perfect niche to scale your agency to a whole new level. Specifically, we're going to go over everything you need to know before picking the perfect niche. Then we're actually going to go ahead and pick your niche. And then I want to talk about 3 things that I think are really important. Should I go into a niche that's saturated or not saturated? Because everyone talks about that. I'm also going to ask the question, what would Joel do? And I also want to talk about when you should switch niches, because a lot of us go into a niche and then we don't commit like we talked about yesterday. So I want to set some really clear guidelines on when you actually should and when you shouldn't. There are a few cases where it makes sense. Most of the time it doesn't, but there are a few cases where it does, and we're going to break down those specific scenarios. Now, if you're ready to dive in, drop one final 1 below, and let's get started. So everything you need to know before picking the perfect niche. First things first, this is the most important lesson. There is no perfect niche. Guys, I'm sorry to break it to you, but the reality is that every niche sucks. Okay? There is no perfect niche. Not chiropractors, not gyms, not e-commerce, not roofers, not water damage, not anything else. Every niche sucks. The sooner that you guys can accept this, the sooner that you can start operating from a place of truth and start leveling up to make your niche amazing. The reality is that every niche sucks, and finding the perfect one is not going to solve your lack of entrepreneurial abilities. The key is to pick a niche, commit to it long enough to make it work for you and for you to level up so that the niche works.
Hey, Joel, real quick, can we talk about that rule that we said yesterday? I know
we had like 20 rules. Which one?
You got to stick to one goal for 6 months. That rule.
Yes, guys. The 6-month contract, obviously you guys all went out and filled out the contract, but I truly believe that you should pick one niche and stick to it long enough so that you can actually level up and make the niche work for you. Because again, the reality is there's no perfect niche for you guys to select. And the other truth is that your niche is not going to solve your problems. You're going to solve your problems. So instead of trying to just pivot to a new niche to make things easier for you, you should ask yourself, how can I be better and make my niche work for me? I almost gave up on chiropractors as a niche because I thought it wouldn't work. And now we have over 100 chiropractor clients. And for every single niche, there's people doing big numbers. So that should tell you more than anything else that the niche is not the problem. The problem is always you. That's the first thing you guys need to know about picking the perfect niche. Like I said, rule number 2, don't find a better niche, become a better entrepreneur. The way that we make niches not suck is by being better, by learning to solve more problems for the niche, by learning how to sell to a niche even if they're broke, by learning how to sell in a niche that has a lot of money but a lot less people in it, like surgeons, for example. Instead of trying to fix the niche by switching or by finding a perfect one, we should look towards leveling up. Before you want to pick a niche, you also want to know the niche's pros and cons. Now, the reason I made this a bullet is because every niche is going to have upsides and downsides. So whenever you guys are asking yourselves, oh, what's the perfect niche? What's the best niche out there? The reality is that, like I said, there is none. It's just a matter of understanding the pros and cons behind every niche and deciding which pros and cons you want to align yourself with. So I'm going to give you 3 examples here. In real estate, who knows how many realtors there are in the US? Drop it in the comments below. Drop it in below or take a guess. Someone said tons. Yeah, there's over 1 million realtors. Okay? Out of 1,000 realtors, how many do you think are making 7 figures? Drop it below. Someone said 1. I think that kind of proves the point. Not many. So with that niche, the reality is anyone can go out and get the real estate license. There's nothing really stopping you besides one test, investing some time and investing a few $100s. So with that in mind, the upside of the niche, the good thing behind the niche, the pros behind the niche is that it's so easy to get booked appointments because you never run out. Even if you and 5 friends launched a real estate agency, there would still be thousands more realtors to target that you haven't personally reached out to or them. The downside is that because there's a lower barrier to entry, they don't have as much money. It's a more of a broke niche. So easy to get appointments, harder to sell and retain because they don't have a lot of money. It also attracts a lot of people that want to become entrepreneurs, which means that you're dealing in it's a broke market. You're not talking about doctors and lawyers here. We're talking about people that want to quit everything they're doing and start a new path for themselves, you're rarely going to see that in the professions like surgeons or attorneys. Now let's go through another example. Surgeons. Do you guys know how many plastic surgeons there are in the US? Let me
less than 250,000, I would say.
Oh,
maybe
way less than that.
Maybe 100,000.
I think there's way less. Let me look it up. Okay. Check this out. American Society of Plastic Surgeons comprises 94% of all board certified plastic surgeons in the US. Has about 8,000 worldwide total. Out of all those, let's assume that 2/3 actually own and operate their own practice. So let's say 5,000. So guys, there's only 5,000 surgeons. Now, they have a lot of money. It's a wealthy niche, but now it's going to be a lot harder to get appointments because you can't easily advertise to them on Facebook. It's like who here has ran ads for a local business in a tiny, tiny, tiny population town of like 2,000 people? Drop a 1 below if you have, drop a 2 if you haven't. If you like really, really small population. Okay, a lot of you guys haven't, but I'll tell you what, I've done it and it's super hard because it dries up so quickly. After like a week, you've already hit up the whole town. It's done. So in niches where there is a lot of money because there was a higher barrier to entry, it wasn't as easy to go and become a plastic surgeon. You had to be talented, smart. Then you had to invest in 8 years of education. Then you had to pass. Then you had to be certified by the board. Then you had to open up a practice. All these things needed to come in place for you to become a surgeon, which means that there's going to be less of them. So even if they have money, it's going to be harder to get appointments. Pros and cons. I'll give you guys one final example, something more along the middle. Chiropractors. There's between 30 to 50,000 chiropractors. So it's not quite 1 million like realtors, and it's not quite 8,000 like plastic surgeons. Now, it's kind of at a sweet spot because they do have money. There is a barrier to entry, and there's enough of them to reach out to. But that creates a whole new problem. It creates the problem of saturation. So it means that you have to innovate very, very, very often. And you have to come up with new offers and new strategies. And you don't have to do that with a niche like plastic surgeons. But with a niche like chiropractors, you're going to have to be innovating very, 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 very quickly. So the whole point of this, guys, is that every niche sucks and has pros and cons. And the key is that you should understand your niche's pros and cons and then enter that niche. Does that make sense? Drop a 1 below if it makes sense, if this is resonating with you.
Joel, can you show those slides over just so we can look at all three, the scenarios you talked about? So you have easy appointments and broke. You have plastic surgeons, hard appointments, but they can afford the services. And then you have chiros where there's too many of them and too many of us on top of that.
The point is, no matter how you skin the cat, you're going to end up with pros and cons. It's not going to be perfect. There's no perfect niche, guys. That's really all I'm trying to prove. Every niche has an upside and every niche has a downside. If we work with roofers, broke niche, but there's over 100,000 of them. And it's a growing niche. If we work with gym owners, it's kind of like chiros. If we work with med spas, it's kind of like surgeons. But again, guys, the point is simple. There's no perfect niche. And if any of you thought that I was just going to come here today and just tell you what niche to pick, then you've definitely not met me before or consumed any of my content, because I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm telling you what you need to hear and really educate you beyond just spoon feeding you an answer that's only going to serve you for the next 30 days and then leave you out in the middle of the desert to survive on your own. So I wanted to instead empower you guys with really being able to understand niches and niche selection as a whole, so that you can then go out and really think on your own as an entrepreneur and find the right niche for you. So another quick little point about before picking a niche, you want to play to who you are and your competitive advantage. If you have 30 family, if you have your entire family in the dental space and your dad's a dentist and your uncle's a dentist and you know all their friends, maybe it makes sense for you to play to that competitive advantage and cut the learning curve. If you've been a realtor for 10 years and you just wanted to start an agency, maybe it makes sense for you to go after realtors. If your family runs a landscaping company, maybe it makes, and you've been already doing landscaping marketing for them, and you already know how to do it, maybe it makes sense to go into that space. You have to play to your competitive advantage. If you're a great communicator and you can speak to people that have a lot of money with confidence and with clarity, like doctors, like lawyers, maybe going to one of those niches. So you have to really play to your competitive advantage and who you are. I'll give you guys one example, and I talked about this yesterday. I had a member inside of my coaching program who would show up in a two-piece suit. He would be wearing a vest every single day, Monday through Friday. Guys, check it out. I'm wearing a sweater. This guy would show up in a vest to a Zoom call, and he was going after landscapers. I told him, dude, you're in the wrong niche. A landscaper is going to laugh at you. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with you, but maybe work with lawyers or financial service providers or accountants or any niche that maybe isn't landscaping. So play to who you are, right? Don't try to be someone you're not. Let's keep going.
Give us a one if that was helpful, guys. We want you to interact with us. Give us feedback of the takeaways that you're getting, okay? Put your questions in the chat. We'll get to it at the end of the call.
Yeah, and guys, we only have 2 more points, and then we're going to dive into what I actually look for in niches. So with that in mind, final 2 points for you guys. You got to pick one and stick to it for at least 6 months. It's a non-negotiable. And by the way, if you're working with mortgage loan officers and real estate agents, that's 2 niches. If you're working with real estate agents and real estate investors, that's 2 niches. If you're working with chiropractors and physical therapists, that is 2 niches.
Dental and orthodontist, 2 niches, guys.
So pick one niche and stick to it, because like we talked about yesterday, the amount of effort that's required to really master a niche, start getting great results, and break past that initial past that initial 10 feet off the ground, like we talked about yesterday using the rocket ship example, requires so much effort, so much focus, so much intensity. So you can't have split focus. And then the final point, guys, you have to pick one in the next 24 hours. What was the very first slide yesterday? We talked about taking the first step. If you don't go to the gym and shoot the basketball, we can spend hours learning about niches, but at some point you got to just pick one. So I'm going to give you guys 24 hours to pick your niche. 24 hours to pick your niche. It's good to think about it. Maybe do some pros and cons lists. But at the end of the day, accept the reality that every niche sucks, and that the only way that it's not going to suck is by you getting better. And you can only arrive at that outcome if you just pick one and move forward.
Hey, just to be really clear with everyone, the reason why we wanted to do a workshop versus just another, we could have shot a bunch of videos and loaded up into a membership thing and threw it at y'all, right? That could have been much more convenient and easier. No scheduling issues, no post issues, no nothing, right? But the reason why we wanted to workshop is so we can make decisions together. Decisions that's going to move your business forward. Decisions that I've made in my past, Joel has made in my past, other top agencies have made in the past. Even here at HighLevel, at the agency, we pick niches. We do, right? So the reason why we do a workshop setting is so that you can take action and actually make decisions. That's the main number one goal, is to keep each other accountable, make decisions. By end of the 10th day, you should have a machine ready to blow up and take this rocket ship up. I just want to reiterate that. The point of a workshop is to do this together, just so you guys know.
Any questions before we keep going? Oh, I see a lot. Whoops, I did not see those on the side. Jason said, basically, if your niche sucks, that means that you suck and you just need to get better. That's exactly what it means. And the fact that there's people that have mastered the niche goes to show that the problem is not a niche problem, it's a you problem. Unless you're in some crazy niche. Like, there's obviously outlier cases. It's not black or white, but nine times out of 10, it's probably a you problem, not a niche problem. Let's see. Someone asked, this is a really good question. Someone asked me, what are your thoughts on architects and interior designers? The reason why this is such a good question is because you're asking the wrong question. And it's going to be a really good example for everyone. The right question is, what are the pros and cons for interior designers? What are the pros and cons for architects? Are those pros and cons the ones that I'm willing to commit to for 6 months? Do they align with who I am? Do I have competitive advantages around those pros and cons? So I am neutral about every niche. I don't think any niche is good or bad. I think we have neutral niches and good and bad entrepreneurs. So thank you so much for sharing it. I would just rephrase the question to, what are the pros and cons behind those niches? Do they align with who I am and my competitive advantages? Or is there another niche out there that aligns more with who I am and my competitive advantages? And am I willing to live with another niche's pros and cons just a little bit more? Let's see. And guys, I'm not like a niche whisperer. I don't know every niche, you know? Like, you're going to have to do some research too. That's why I'm giving you 24 hours. Like, I don't know the specific numbers in terms of how many insurance agents there are versus landscapers or whatever the case might be. But here, let's keep going. Now it's time to actually pick your niche. Here's kind of what I'm looking for. So now that we talked about everything that you need to know before picking the perfect niche, let's talk about what I actually look for in a niche. These are, let's call them proven principles. Let's call these the proven principles. Whoops. Let me just bring this down. Cool. So these are things that I'm looking for no matter what when finding a niche. First things first, the more businesses there are, the better. If your market is capped at 1,000 people, it's going to be harder. Now, I'm not saying you need to be in a niche that's massive like real estate, but the very first point that I'm looking for is the bigger the niche, the better as a whole. Someone
said underwater basket weaving. Like,
that's the perfect niche. You should go after it. And then
there's only 50 of them. There's only 50 of them in the whole wide world. You're gonna kill them with ads.
You should run some ads and send 1,000 messages a day. See what kind of response you get. Let's see. So more businesses, the better. This is just, and guys, these are principles. Obviously, sometimes there's outliers, but for the most part, these are principles that I'm following. For example, when we talk about shooting a basketball, most coaches would tell you to bring your elbow in. that doesn't mean that every player in the world shoots like that. There's some players that shoot with their elbow out. So these are principles that work across the board most of the time. The more businesses, the better. The next thing that I'm looking for is, can I scrape the list? Can I scrape lists of the decision maker? By list, I mean the email and phone number. Can I scrape email and phone number of the decision maker? If I could even scrape the IG pages and their Facebook pages, that's a plus. That's an extra bonus. So that's another thing that I'm looking for. If I can't scrape the phone number, the email, the Instagram page, the Facebook page of the people in my niche, specifically the decision maker, it's going to be hard for me to do outreach. If I can't do outreach, I can't get the client.
And we're talking about outreach at scale with a sales team and a marketing team behind you in the long run, not you being able to send 10 messages a day.
Yeah, of course. But like, for example, if you're in a niche that's extremely hard to figure out who the decision maker is and how to reach them, it's going to be hard to scale. So, number one, is the niche big enough? That's one thing that I'm looking for. Number two, can I scrape the emails, phone numbers, Facebook pages, Instagram pages, specifically of the decision makers in my niche?
Joel, what do you mean by scrape? Somebody asked, can you define scrape?
Yeah, I'll show you guys. And we're going to talk about scraping, I believe, on Thursday. So we'll dive way deeper. But let me just show you an example. I just got to pull this up. Okay, if I look up gyms near me, there's all these listings. If I can't go through the listings using a software like Google Maps email extractor, if I can't use a software like this to go through and get the emails and phone numbers for all these listings, it's going to be a hard niche to scale in. So essentially, we want to be able to go out and collect the emails and phone numbers of every decision maker in our niche. So for example, if we can go to a database like Yellow Pages and look up chiropractor, we have phone numbers. I'm sure if we go through, we can find their email. And the idea is we should be able to go through and scrape all these people. And by scrape, I just mean collect their emails, phone numbers. And as a bonus, if you can collect their Instagram pages and Facebook business pages, that'd be great. But if you can't do that, it's going to be really hard for you to then do prospecting and reach out to them. Does that make sense? Whoever asked that question? Hopefully that helps. All right. Next up, can I easily reach them organically? And by organically, I mean, can I easily send them a message or send them an email or call them? Or am I going to have to go through 30 gatekeepers and I don't even know who the decision maker is? So in other words, can I easily pull up? Here, check this out. I just pulled this up based on one of the results. I could even go to another one. Okay, Lehigh Athletic Club. Facebook. Give me a sec. Can I easily pull up their page and send them a message?
Hey, Joel, can you do me a favor and click on more on that same Facebook page and go to the About page Sometimes you'll even see the owner's actual email that they created this page with listed. Info at, sometimes you'll see the owner's name there instead of saying info. It's another hack I figured out.
Yeah, and we'll talk way more about this specifically on for scraping on Thursday. And then Friday, we're actually going to start doing outreach. But I'm just trying to show, like, can you easily go through this process of reaching out to them on through their Facebook page, email, phone number, or Instagram page? That's one thing that I'm looking for in terms of niches. I'm also asking myself, can I easily advertise to them on Facebook? That's another thing. Besides that, the big things that I'm looking for when looking for niches, I prefer personally going after proven niches that have people that have scaled to 7 figures. And the reason why is because I want to be able to build a support network of people in case I get stuck. And I want to be able to ask for help. And if it's already been done, it's going to be a lot easier to replicate. And again, we're not trying to be pioneers and build a rocket ship to Mars. We're just trying to build a marketing agency. It's very simple. Like I said yesterday, people pay us money. We do some marketing. So I'd rather follow in someone's footsteps rather than recreate the wheel from scratch. So one of the things I look for is, has this niche been scaled before by another agency to 7 figures? This is kind of a bonus. Is it easy to get results for them? If you're advanced and you're really good at marketing, it doesn't really matter too much. But if you're brand new, this is a big bonus. Is it going to be extremely complex to get them results, or is it going to be simple in terms of being able to run ads, set up HighLevel, to do some nurturing and to do some reactivation campaigns, and that's it? And then the last piece, unless you have a unique offer, I also don't want a niche that has a cheap service. So for example, if I'm working with nail salons and I'm charging $1,500 a month and a nail treatment costs $30, I would have to get them, let me do the math.
A lot of volume.
Yeah, we would have to get them, is that right? 50? Yeah, 50. We would have to get them 50 clients a month, every single month, to just break even. And at that point, it doesn't even make sense. So for most of you guys, I would stay away from niches that have a cheap service. I would say if you have to get them more than 20 people a month, it's probably too cheap. And those are the biggest things that I'm looking for. So, for example, chiropractors. Let's go through this. Does it have enough businesses? Yeah, it has over 30,000. Can I scrape lists of the decision makers? Yes, I can. Can I easily reach them organically? Yes, I can. Can I easily advertise to them on Facebook? Yes, I can. Has it been proven to work? Yes, it has. Is it easy to get results for? It's kind of medium. Do they have a cheap service? No, they don't. So that kind of passes the test. Gyms. There's about 50,000 gyms. So that's enough. Can I scrape lists of decision maker? I can. Can I easily reach them organically? I can. Can I easily advertise to them on Facebook? Yes, I can. Is it a proven niche? Has someone else scaled to 7 figures? Yes, there have been. Is it easy to get results for? I'd say it's one of the easier ones. Do they have a cheap service? That's kind of a medium. They kind of do, they kind of don't. You can get creative with doing programs that they sell. But like I said, every niche has pros and cons. You're going to have to deal with it. There's no perfect niche that for everything this is perfect. That being said, you're looking for niches that, for the most part, align with these things right here. So a few examples, like roofers pass the test, med spas, orthos pass the test. Things like e-commerce, they pass the test, but it's more advanced. So you're going to have to be really good at media buying and have that skill. Like I said, that one is hard to get results for unless you're advanced. Same with things like wedding venues and water damage and beauty salons. I'm not saying they can't work. You're just going to have to be more advanced. So guys, I know I just talked a lot, but to break it all down, this is what I'm looking for in a niche. And now that we know that there's no perfect niche and that every niche sucks, these are the things that I'm thinking about when selecting a niche. Are there enough for me to actually sign up as clients? Can I go out into the internet and use some tools to collect the emails, phone numbers, Instagram pages, Facebook pages of the decision maker in that niche? Can I easily message them on email, Facebook, Instagram, etc.? Can I easily advertise to them on Facebook? Like, for example, with chiropractors, I can target chiropractic schools doing the interest targeting for Facebook. I can target the chiropractor job title. Is it a proven niche? Is it easy to get results for, especially if I'm a beginner? And do they have a service that's expensive enough for marketing to make sense? That's pretty much it.
Joel, I love this. This is one of the first things I noticed that you kind of gave a different advice than most, right? You kind of welcome the saturation to a certain level, right? To the grace, right? Can you talk about saturation in general, or is that what you have planned next? I don't want to get too ahead of myself here.
Yeah, I have 2 slides on that. So
let's do it.
Cool. So guys, if you go into a saturated niche, so in other words, by saturated, we mean one where there's a lot of competition. I don't mind that. I truly believe that if you go into a saturated niche, it means that there's money. It means that there's going to be a lot of support. The only caveat is that it's going to require you to just be better and level up. But there's also more at stake. There's more to be won. So if you want to win big, you got to play in the major leagues and level up. So some of the things to keep in mind, if you go into a niche that is competitive, you're going to be able to get support. It's going to be proven to model. So you can easily go out and see what all the other big agencies are doing and try to model it. You definitely don't want to steal it. You definitely don't want to copy it. I would say more so you want to be inspired by and learn from and curious about what other big players are doing. It's also pretty simple because all you have to do is take it and improve it. It's kind of like, I don't know if anyone's ever done e-commerce, but when you look for products, the whole idea is you want to find a winning product and then tweak it, make it a little bit better. And in saturated niches, that's really all you have to do. You just have to take it and then improve it. You don't have to recreate the wheel. You don't have to create a brand new product from scratch or find a product that's never been sold before. All you have to do is figure out what's a product that works. How can I make it a little bit better? Now, here's the downside. Here's the 2 biggest downsides. If you go into a saturated niche where it has a lot of competition, you're going to have to innovate consistently. With a lot of really talented people in the marketplace, you're going to have to figure out how to be better all the time. How do I become better? How do I become better? How do I become better? It never stops. And there's also going to be a longer ramp up period. Getting through that initial hump is going to take longer because you're going to need even more momentum, even more focus, even more intense energy to build momentum. So when we compare that to a niche that no one's ever been in, it's going to happen really quickly. Now, if we look at unsaturated niches, here's the benefits. If you go into a niche that's never been done or very few people are in it, very few people are in it. For example, I have a client that's in the water damage restoration niche. How many of you guys know people in that niche? Okay, a few of you guys. How many of you guys know someone in the chiropractor niche? Pretty much everyone. So if you go into a niche that's not as competitive, the big upside is that you're going to have a faster ramp up period. You're going to get appointments really quickly because there's a lot less people reaching out to them on Facebook, on Instagram, over email, on LinkedIn. It's going to be easier to get appointments, but here's the caveat. It's going to be a lot harder to get them results. It's going to be a lot harder to get them to get support if you get stuck. And you have to keep in mind, when you are going after unsaturated niches, you're going to have to pioneer and become the first one to figure out how to get them great results. And that is a big, 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 big challenge.
We wasted a lot of money on that at HighLevel. With the HighLevel agency, we had a water restoration client in Dallas. That's where our offices are. Mega client. We turned them into a little partner, try to go after that niche, realized we had to educate the entire industry before we found an active buyer. It was crazy. We spent so many months, so many partnerships, so many steaks and wines, and nothing happened with it. It was a waste of time.
Yeah, and I'd say a lot of people underestimate how much it's going to take to figure out fulfillment if no one's ever figured it out. It's going to be really hard to get them results if no one else has figured out how to get them results. And there's probably a reason no one else has figured out how to get them results, because it's really hard, which is why it's unsaturated. And now it's just coming full circle. So with that in mind, what would I do? We've talked a lot today. Now you guys are probably wondering, okay, what would Joel actually do? For me personally, and again, let's go back to the beginning. Hold up. You have to play to who you are and your competitive advantage. Remember, I said this at the very beginning, but if you were to ask me what I would do, given who I am and given my competitive advantage, I would rather go into a proven niche and just be better. That being said, if I had a competitive advantage in another niche, or for example, let's say I was really, really good at marketing for a specific weird niche that no one else is really good at marketing for, I would probably go after that. But I don't have that competitive advantage. When I started my agency, I had been doing Google AdWords for years, but I've never been the marketing tech genius that had that edge. My edge has always been in being a communicator, in leading people, in thinking about how to build a better product. So it made perfect sense to go into a competitive niche. But if you have figured out a really cool way to get pet stores amazing results, go after pet stores, because no one else is going after them. But don't lie to yourself. If you haven't figured it out, don't go after that niche just because it's untapped. Is this making sense, guys? If it's making sense, if you're finding value, drop a 1 below. Cool. Do you guys feel like I'm giving you what you actually need versus what you want to hear? Because I could have sat here and told you, yo, here's the top 10 niches, forget about it. But guess what? The moment it stops working, you're going to be back to square one, and you're not going to be empowered to think through how to solve the problem of finding the niche that works for you. And then this was useless if that's the point that you arrive at. So here we go. Last but not least, and then we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. When you should not switch niches. And I want to give credit where credit is due. One of my really good friends, and he's actually a member of my coaching program as well, Jeff Miller. I'm sure you guys know him. He came up with these slides. I want to give credit where credit is due. These are his slides that he did a workshop for my group because he had switched niches. So I was like, yo, you did exactly what I told everyone not to do. So you got to explain it to everyone and break it down. And he did, and it was a really good explanation. And now I take what he taught, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So the point when you should not switch boils down to it being a me or a you problem. If it's too hard, or I can't figure it out, or it's taking too long to see results, or I'm scared, or no one likes me. If it's a you problem, you do not want to switch niches. It's about you leveling up. The only time where you should switch niches is if the culture of your clients is not you. So again, think back to the person that would wear the vest and a tie talking to a landscaper that's dirty from working outside all day on their phone on the road. like if your culture is not in alignment, that should be a sign for you to switch niches. If there's not enough clients in the niche, so if your niche only has 100 people, too small, switch niches. If you have to get your client thousands of clients for it to make sense, switch niches. And if you're having difficulty with creating an offer to get them clients and to get you clients, and it's complex and it's a really weird niche and it's going to be really complex, switch niches. So to boil it all down, guys, when you find a niche, stick to it for 6 months, commit to it. And unless it falls into any of these categories, don't switch. Cool. We got 5 minutes for questions. What are the proven niches? I talked a little bit about it, but the way to look for proven niches is to see, hey, has anyone actually scaled an agency in that niche? So let's ask ourselves the question, has someone scaled an agency to 7 figures in the chiropractic niche? Has someone scaled an agency to 7 figures in the roofing niche? Has someone scaled an agency to 7 figures in the orthodontics niche? The answer is yes. If we go after, like, there's definitely some where we don't know for sure. There's a lot less people. So, someone asked about seasonal niches, like roofing, solar.
Tax is a seasonal one that struggles sometimes.
Pros and cons. They also are going to be extremely solid buyers during summer seasons. One of my business partners, Sergio, scaled his roofing agency, rolling revenue to over 7 figures. And during the winter, he just has a winter game plan. He sells things like SEO and he sells things like coaching during the winter and tells them, hey, it's now time to buckle down and think more long-term and take action when no one else is taking action. When everyone else is taking their foot off the gas pedal, we're going to press down and play long-term. So again, there's no good or bad niche. There's good and bad entrepreneurs. And it's just about understanding your niche's pros and cons.
Hey, Joel, I have a question for you, buddy.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's say I have 2 clients in one niche and one in another and one in another, and I have total of 4 clients. How do you recommend I pivot at this point? Because
you're screwed
Joel,
at that
I've already
point.
started. You're screwed,
right?
I'm
just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke, guys. What to do in that scenario? When in route, go the revenue route. So I wouldn't let go of your clients, especially if you need the income. I never recommend that. But in terms of when you're focusing your efforts to grow the agency, pick one and stick with it. The one I would probably pick out of all those niches that you're working with is the one that you can get the best results for. And I wouldn't let them go. I would just build on the one niche that you select. And then moving forward, say no to anyone that's not in your niche. Let's see.
How many of y'all found this valuable? Give us a 1 if this was like really, really giving you some clarity. And I know a lot of you in here, you guys are doing well over 50K months, 10K months, 100K months with some of you, but you still going back to the fundamentals. I would love your feedback on what are you really taking away?
Does anyone want to unmute and share a takeaway maybe? Or maybe not.
Justin.
I'll go ahead and hop out there. I mean, for me, it's just it's the mindset. Like I missed first the day one, but I'm gonna definitely go back and watch the YouTube. But today was just getting the mindset, like wrapping my mind around just attacking that one niche, focusing on that one niche. you said something about looking at other companies that have scaled that particular niche to 7 figures. And you said just kind of looking at that and modeling something after. So for me, it was like R&D, rip off and duplicate. Don't take what they have, but just kind of, build from that. So this was helpful.
Yeah, this is a question most coaches shy away from, but I love to tell my clients to ask it because it's empowering them. And the question is, how can I take everything that Joel is doing and beat him? That should be your approach. The problem is most other coaches want you to depend on the coach that you continue paying them. So they don't want you to beat them. But if I really care about you guys, I would tell you to ask yourselves the question, how can you take what Joel is doing or whatever the leaders in your industry and your niche are doing and beat them? And again, I really like the e-commerce example. You can go and find a product that's never been proven to work and revolutionize the industry forever. But that's going to be a lot harder to do versus just finding a product that's proven to sell and just figuring out how to make it better. So that's kind of and again, it's not black or white. There's definitely some outliers. There's going to be one of you guys in here that does figure out how to build an agency in a brand new niche. But for most of us, that's not what I would recommend. So.
Thank you.
Let's see. Oh, also, let's end on this note for today. And then I have to run, Paulson. But really powerful word. I call it the 7-figure word. If you guys learn how to say it, you're going to scale to 7 figures, or at least increase your chances of scaling to 7 figures. The word is no. So after you pick your niche, learn to say no as much as possible to every other niche that's going to come your way. And something really weird happens when you start succeeding. You start getting a lot of opportunities. I don't know why. It just happens where as soon as you figure out something, it's like all these other niches come your way. I don't know why. It's very weird. It's like business is trying to test you. Like the business God is just saying, hey, are you capable of not saying yes and being tempted by your desires? You got to learn to say no. So you don't have to let go of all of your clients, but you definitely have to say no to future clients that are not in your niche. And if you really are feeling like you want to go all in, I'll tell you guys one story. Sergio, who I've mentioned a few times, he's my business partner in our coaching program. He also has a 7-figure agency. He dropped $40,000 worth of clients to go all in on one niche. You definitely don't have to do that. That's just Sergio. But that goes to show the level of commitment required to making it work and scaling, because he was driving himself crazy trying to figure out how to service all the different kinds of clients. And he eventually said, you know what, screw this. I'm firing all my clients that aren't roofers and going all in. So.
Hey, those of you that have questions, just do a raise hand on the feature on the Zoom, and I'll just go by order. Joel, I know you have to jump off. Feel free to jump off as much as you need to for your next calls and things like that. I'm going to stay on for like 10 minutes and answer questions that are maybe some things that are reviews from yesterday, kind of bring people up to par, and then I'll have the recording up. But appreciate you, Joel, in case if you have to go, okay?
Yeah, I do have to run today, guys. Appreciate all of you so much. Hopefully you found today's session valuable. If you haven't seen day one, please go back and watch day one. And Justin, you said you love the mindset stuff. That's what we did day one. So go check that out. And tomorrow we've got offer creation coming up. So
yeah. So before you jump off, Joel, what are the expectations that they have to come to the table with tomorrow? What are the decisions they have to make?
You got 24 hours to pick a niche
for the next 6 months.
Yeah. So I would say figure out pros and cons. Here's what I would do. I would go through that little rubric of, let me see. I can try to send this to you right now.
I have the slides if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can also drop it here. I would go through this and find 3 niches that align with those questions. 3. Then I would write a pros and cons list for all 3 and then pick one based on which one you feel like you can align with the most. That's it. And if you can't
100%.
figure it out, flip a coin. You know,
You'll get down to 2 choices minimum.
You could,
right?
I just got a dog. I just got a puppy, and I've been teaching him like all these commands with treats. You can put out a little treat. You can put 3 treats and put a niche behind each treat and see which one it goes to first. You know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Just pick one and level up and be better. So.
Thanks, Joel. Anybody? So I see the first question here. Denise Burns, if you want to unmute yourself, let's go over it. Those of you that may have joined a little late, today's day 2, the replay from yesterday and the very first intro interview that we did is on the YouTube channel. Feel free to catch that as soon as we're done with the call. I'm going to stay on till about for another 10 minutes and we can just rapid fire. Okay. Denise, go ahead. If you want to unmute yourself. Hi.
Hi, this is really cool. So I'm just getting started, like ground zero, right? And I'm all over the place, like, oh, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this. But what really resonates with me is ophthalmology, because my past life has been in medical, and like my specialty has been in ophthalmology, as something totally unrelated to marketing, right? Like the other side. But anyway, but what I'm finding is a lot of the ophthalmologists work with a medical center and they're not independent.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that, I haven't done enough research yet to decide they're not independent.
Yeah, there's about 4 corporations that run that entire industry. It's unregulated. And those 4, I think the names are Landmark, Optica. I know a bunch of random information that's useless for myself, but anyways, that is a industry that is monopolized by 4 corporations. So literally all these retail spots, right? Their marketing is controlled by these large franchises. From when you look at Joel's rubric and our rubric on what qualifies that industry, it doesn't qualify itself that well for marketing, right? You can essentially run consulting where you're charging $10,000 and you're selling your time. It's not a scalable business, right? So, and the other thing is this, let's say you do get into a clinic that you're going to run marketing for. What are you going to be selling? Bunch of low ticket items, right? You're selling either treatment that's less than $1,000 or glasses and prescriptions around, $150 to $200.
Ophthalmology, not optometry. Ophthalmology.
Got it. So you're in the surgical side. You're in the surgical side.
Yes, surgical.
I'm sorry.
So like macular degeneration.
Even them. You know what the problem with them is? Is they're part of a bigger group. They're not independently running. That's one issue.
Yeah.
The other is larger entities like a hospital system, right? Runs their clinical marketing. So they're still hard to get through for gatekeepers. So my misunderstanding on optometry versus ophthalmology, but even optometry, that's the same problem, right? So in your scenario, what I would do, Denise, is really do more research on an industry that you're gonna, I get it. I had the same problem, Denise. When I first got into marketing, I had spent almost 12 years in healthcare in radiology, and I went after radiology clinics. Got nowhere.
Same thing.
I got
it's
nowhere.
It's the same structure then.
It's the same structure. So the problems are, it's not easy to scale and get through gateways, right? And then it's controlled by larger entities like a hospital system or an insurance provider that throws in marketing. So it's a very B2B driven business. So that's why I say it's not that attractive for marketing agencies, right? Why do you think not that many people are in there? It's the same issues, right? Hopefully that helps.
Okay.
Well, I rather tell you the truth of what I feel about it versus having you pound at it for the next 2 years of trying to crack the code on this industry,
Yeah.
right?
So I got
So-
24 hours.
You've got 24 hours. That's
Okay.
right. That's a lot of time.
Okay. It was either that or coaching.
Sure. So what kind of coaching, right? Is it scalable? Go through the same rubric, right? What
Yeah.
exactly would you be doing? And there's a reason why we have these developed rubrics. This didn't just come out of the woodworks just because this morning we got, together on breakfast. This is
Yeah.
from building multiple agencies, multiple businesses, right? Let me go through the next question. If anybody has raised their hand, I will go to you. Let's see.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Steve Archambo, I see a thumbs up. I don't know if that's a raised hand or not, but if any of you have questions, unmute yourself and just ask. Let's just go through all of these real quick as much as I can. Let's see. Travis, Review Revolution. Let's do it, man.
Hey,
You
Paul.
got a question?
Yeah.
Hey.
This might be too deep dive for this conversation. Cut me off if it is. All the niches that I have an advantage, competitive advantage in, are like automotive related, and they're all using different applications, for their like a service platform where they do work orders and whatnot from. I've been racking my brain trying to connect my platform with all of these and get connections. Do you have a recommendation for someone who builds Zaps for APIs out there, like custom Zaps and stuff?
None that I can think of out of the blue.
Wrong.
But do you have a question specifically on the niche selection?
I guess not. I apologize. That
Okay.
was part of
No,
my-
that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. So, I mean, if you want to put a post up on the Facebook group and somebody will reach out to you and kind of get you going. But that industry, that's one of their gateways. They will walk in with software, inventory control softwares. That's typically a standard that I've seen there. Let's see. Rudy. I see, Rudy, you got your hands raised, and let's go through your question, buddy. And if
Over
anybody
here.
else have questions, I'm going to take about 5 more questions, and we're going to call it a day. Let's see. Where are you, Rudy? Sorry.
I'm here. I don't
there
know
you
if you
are.
can hear me. Yeah, there you go.
What's up?
Perfect. So there's this question about, there's some niches that have niches inside it. Like Cairo, it has like sport and also like family, and we're in coaching, but it's difficult to decide if a business coach is the same as a life coach, right? Because you can do kind of like the same offer, but maybe you're just forcing an offer to be available for everybody. So if you go very specific, then you don't have that much coaches or business. But if you go very broad, then you have different, different kind of businesses. So just wanted to know, what do you think about, and any recommendations on that?
Yeah. What I would do is not look at the macro umbrella.
Mhm.
That's not the way you look at a niche. I don't ever go in and say, you know what, my niche is medical.
Yeah.
That's not a niche, right?
Yeah.
My niche is not coaching. That's not a niche.
Mm.
Does that make sense? So you need to
Yeah,
go
totally.
granular and figure out your subcategories, right? What are the subcategories that have enough audiences? What are the subcategories? I'm telling you, one of the biggest mistakes we made at the HighLevel agency when we were scaling it is going into an industry. So we got into water restoration, right? It was here in Dallas, and what we realized is we were crushing it for them, right? Okay, great. We've got some good results for this one specific avatar that maybe not that many people are in. And we go after it and we realized they're not normal business owners. There's more regulation than we thought. There's insurance play. There is team lifting. There is outsourced sales. There is, a fulfillment problem because they could only fulfill in certain territories. And dude, I mean, I would say understand your niche well enough, but don't go into an industry that is not tapped yet. Don't be the first soldier out on the war battle zone. Like, you're just asking for trouble, especially, if you're new in business, not you specifically, but I'm saying anybody that's out there. If I'm at war, I don't want to be the first soldier that's going to go into the battle zone. It just, you can do it. Of course, we could all get pumped up and do it and crank up the phones and send, emails and walk in with cupcakes. And I mean, yeah, we can go prospect all kinds of different ways, but you're in for a treat because you got to turn that industry around on education, on what marketing is, then create an active buyer. Not even a buyer, an active buyer that's ready to go today. Right? Yeah, I'm interested. Yeah, let me know next month or next quarter or end of the year. I'll take a look at it. That's not an active buyer, right? So that's why I always recommend not going into an industry that's not saturated at all. Don't do the opposite. So in the coaching world, I see this happen quite often. People build coaching around their expertise. They don't build a coaching around the market and the economics of what the demand and supply is needed, right? That you need to understand your demand supply of what you're doing and then go into it. I had a lady the other day, she wanted to be a nutritional coach. And I'm like, well, there's weight loss people, there's fitness people, there's dietitians, there is herb life people, there's yoga people. Like, if you ask me to buy, I don't know where to go. Right? So you got to really understand your subcategories, and that's going to get you closer to that decision. And there's no perfect niche. I'm telling you, there isn't. There's something that sucks about every niche, and Joel is right about it. Hopefully that helps, Rudy.
Yeah, thank you for that, man.
Let's see. My next person, I believe, is Island. What's going on, buddy? Hey.
Hey, so I think we talked about some niches being too new. Now, what are your thoughts on niches like realtors? I mean, I think I tried mortgage loan officers for a little bit, and I think the one thing that I've seen pretty often is hey, if there's two niches that are super saturated, are realtors and mortgage loan officer, and if you're starting brand new like me, maybe pick something else. What's your thoughts on that, Paulson?
So I guess what you're asking. So by the way, there is no new niche. Like, there's no new niche, right? That industry is already developed in most cases, especially in first world countries, right? So the question is, am I going to be new in a saturated niche or not? Right? That's the question that you got to ask yourself. So what are the two choices you have? What are your choice? What are you up against?
So three were kind of one was mortgage loan officer, the other one was solar, and the other one was final expense. I think those are the three that I'm thinking right now.
Got it. So solar, then you said real estate somewhere in there too. You got mortgage officers, right? Correct. So they all kind of fall in a similar category, right? They're all fairly saturated. They have high tickets. People invest into it. But I would just say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. There's no wrong answer. The expenses one, you said the financial expenses, right?
Yeah, the final expense.
The final expenses. And what does that mean?
So that's basically you're buying insurance against to protect any after against your funeral cost and things like that.
Got it. Yeah. Too far out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to explain that to me, and I know most of these niches, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was Justin. Justin, I don't know if you're on here. Justin was kind of doing something similar, and I told him the same thing. It's like Justin Knowles, by the way, if you want to connect with him. But it's the same problem. I have to educate that market, and nobody else. And it's not just education. You've got to figure out the fulfillment for that industry.
Yeah.
Right. That's I've seen a lot of CBD agencies come over to us and ask us for help, because I'm like, oh, there's nobody else that's figured it out. Same thing happened in the stem cell world. When it first came out, all the agencies were struggling on fulfillment, right? So you don't want to be the first one there. So if anything, if I were you, I would do either loan office or real estate. Now, I'll go a little further. I can tell you, it's harder to put together an offer for a loan officer versus a real estate agent. There's regulation there, right? So go through that rubric. I promise every step has a reason. Every step has a reason, right? Don't skip a single one. And then I would lean towards it. Here's the thing. I don't want to choose real estate for you. I'm just saying, here's how you fish. Go create your bait and figure out what it is that you want to do instead of us just giving over a basket of fish. That doesn't help, right? So, and there's people that struggle in real estate, absolutely miserably struggle, right? And there's people that are building 8-figure businesses in real estate, right? Doesn't mean they're not struggling, but it's the same scenario, right? Let's see. Steph Burrell.
Hello.
Hey.
No, okay. So I've been like today kind of was uncomfortable as well because yesterday was uncomfortable too. He's kind of hitting on those uncomfortable. Yeah, thanks. That's appreciated.
All the nerves, and I know a client canceled on you yesterday, so I can't wait.
Totally.
I can't wait for you to crush it in like less than a week.
Well, I've been in the real estate space I worked with a marketing agency, went under from COVID, and then I started taking on clients, doing my own thing, and I found HighLevel, and we were using all these tools putting together, and it's been great. But I never was myself in real estate. It was like I was hired because I'm a tech person into this marketing agency, and now I'm kind of creating my own because I happen to have worked in the real estate industry for the last 1.5 to 2 years. And I was literally yesterday thinking about switching niches. And so now I'm kind of confused. And I know you're just going to be like, just stick with it and stay for another 6 months, because I've been doing it for like 8 months now. And I think my only confusion is probably the offer, and maybe my questions will be answered tomorrow. Like maybe my offering might be a little off. So maybe I should just stick with a niche. I really just need you to confirm that I should just stick with the niche.
Yeah, honestly, it's not the niche in real estate. It's the package and fulfillment that you provide, or your price points, or your marketing tactics. Right. I know a girl, I don't even want to mention names here because I know they're going to get bombarded. Brand fairly new in the agency space. She's in real estate. She, on average per day, she's onboarding 2 clients.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of opportunity
per day, right? Per day. That's some serious prospecting and sales. And she follows Joel's method. So Steph, hang in there. Real estate is not the problem. Your packaging, your offers that we're going to go into over the next days. We're going to have you guys run paid campaigns for your agencies. You know that, right? That homework is coming, right? So this is a workshop. This is not a conceptual theory like, hey, rah, let's just throw a bunch of education stuff at you. If you do the homework and stick it out, I promise you're going to see some drastic results in your whole family's life. I promise. I don't know if everybody will scale to 10K in 10 days. That's not the intention. Our intention is to give you the blueprint of what it takes. Here's a blueprint of how we've done it, right? Joel, he scaled one agency to 300K, the second one to like 55, and me and Rob and Alex, we did the same thing with HighLevel agency, right? We did the same thing. We have drastically 2 different philosophies. We're a traditional agency. We're niche down. We're not niche down at HighLevel, right? We did print media, billboards, TV ads, radio ads, production, Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO. I mean, dude, it was crazy. And I know the strain on what that was like to get to this point. We're already here, but to get to this point, the amount of difficulty versus when I see somebody leveraging Joel's method, within 2 months, they get to 45K a month, 75K a month. But I know what happens on the traditional side because that's what we did. That's what myself, Robin, and all of us did at the HighLevel. We were selling anything to anybody, hoping to fulfill because we had a great team. Quality. Yeah, great. But guess what? There's no marketing strategy. It's just feast and famining. We're doing BNI meetings. We're doing Chamber of Commerce meeting and driving ourselves crazy. There is an easier way to do this. That's why I asked Joel to get here, because there is a more simplified tactic. So to answer you, Steph, in all my heart, I tell you, real estate is not the problem. If you don't like real estate because you're just tired of realtors, yeah, that's a different problem. But for this marketing agency scaling objective, that's not a problem, right?
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So give it about 2 days. I think by then we'll probably get to having you guys get homework to run ads the next day. Let's see. Babak or Babak. Let me have you on. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, how you doing, man?
My man from Montreal. I remember from yesterday.
Hey, that's right. I'm glad you remember. Out of the sea of people. Yeah,
No
thank
worries,
you.
man.
Thank you for everything you and Joel are doing. It's very valuable information. And I wanted your input on my current niche because this workshop made a question pop up in my head. So my niche, I'm in solar, right? And for me, this is obviously a good niche. But I saw the example that Joel gave, with the plastic surgeons, how there's only about 8,000 of them. And that made me check, and I saw there's only about 10,000 solar businesses in the US. Do you think that number is good or not good when it comes to the check mark on there being a lot of businesses in that niche?
One of the check marks, or two of the check marks, or three of the check marks are going to be off in every niche.
Right.
Something's going to give. There's no perfect niche. Something's going to give, right? So when I first started off, my background was in healthcare management. I was in radiology. I have a medical license, and I walked into marketing. I got pixeled. Oh my goodness, I got pixeled. Bought my first course, rest was history, right? I went into the wrong niche. Then I pivoted into the wrong niche again, which was dental. Some of you guys are in dental and you're asking me why that's a bad niche. For me, it was so hard to get through gatekeepers. For like years, I had great relationships with industry specialists in there. I had influencers. I had dentists as partners to my business, pushing my business. It was still hard. So going back to that question, Babak, there's going to be something that has to give. Solar, it's a smaller industry, but you know what I know about solar? Most of the fulfillment is garbage across the board for most agencies.
That's true.
Number one reason is it's a lot of lift. You cannot just run standard ads in there. You have to run some complex campaigns, right? You got to know what you're doing on YouTube. You got to know what you're doing on Facebook retargeting. You got to know good SEO. And then the biggest thing I've seen in solar is you got to do the sales component and close those deals. So it just goes back to the fact of, are you going to level up as your agency as far as your offer is concerned? Or are you going to let 8,000 just be the problem? What if that 8,000 was your clients?
Right.
We wouldn't have this conversation, right? What if 100 of those were your clients? You turn into a 7-figure agency right then and there, right? So something's going to give somewhere. No niche is going to pass through everything, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
That makes
yeah.
a lot of sense, especially the part you said about delivery, because for me, I was checking the ads the competitors were running, and these guys are running the same type of ads that 2015 agencies were running for real estate and chiropractors, and
Yeah.
So that's a whole. I feel like I'm filling it up because my clients are getting decent results. Some are getting great results, and
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the
comment
questions, before I forget, Babek, one of the
Sure thing.
questions that I ask myself before we enroll into a new niche or program, I want to know what kind of an entrepreneur am I going to be working with? And that's a big red flag for me in solar. Most industry specialists or any owners that I've seen in that industry, not that many people have been absolutely impressive. Like I'm talking about cuffling, haircuts, professionality. Like I have a culture issue there personally. I don't know what it is, but it's like like it's not, there's a certain culture there that you've got to be involved in, right? And it just wasn't me. So I struggled in solar, I can tell you that, but our agency doesn't. But I don't have fun closing them. I don't like to talk much to solar guys because one, it's nothing against solar, but there is a cultural thing that I cannot tap into. I don't know what it is, but I don't, it just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know what it is. It's like bar guys, right? If you're running a club and a bar, I probably won't like be able to go dinner all the time and hang out. I just see it as a different crowd. And my parents taught me to stay away from, alcohol and drugs and all these things. And I would feel like I'm gonna go down that route. So it's like there's some things that you got to go through at a personal level and decide, is this culture gonna relate with me? Am I gonna be able to, if I cannot take a client to a dinner and my wife is not okay with it, that already is a red flag for me. It doesn't even have to go through the rubric. And that's a cultural thing. That's not, the type of entrepreneur that you're going to surround yourself with. Guess what? The testimonials that you put out on those videos on your funnels later, who's going to represent your business? Right?
Yeah, that is so true.
They're going to be representing your business. And these are some of the things that a lot of people don't foresee before you go into an offensive attack. But hopefully that helps. Let me go through 2-3 more questions and I'm going to call it a day. Mick. Oh, I'm sorry, Babak. Before I cut you off, you were getting ready to say something. What was that?
Oh, it's crazy because I was actually about to say what you just said, which was, something about the culture that I noticed as well. And, I only have 2 clients in solar. And one thing I quickly realized is it's not what I thought it would be. I thought it would be like these people that are into high tech and wearing like 4D suits and stuff and talking about technology, but it's not. It's got like this this vibe that, I feel like if you're not from some specific states, you can't relate to these guys, right?
Yeah, and it could be education level, it could be barrier to entry into that industry, it could be socioeconomic status, religious preferences. I mean, if I'm going to run a bunch of campaigns in the Middle East, I better know my culture for that industry, right? Like
Right.
it's different. So that's what I mean by that. And that's the same thing across the board, right? Like doctors, they're not fun to talk to. Like I've been in that industry for so long, I couldn't go hang out with them. I know that. Right, so it's
Yeah.
and that's a good strong industry for a lot of people, right? But same thing applies. Mick, I think it was you that's next, and then Steve Archambo. And I'll take a few more calls, guys, or questions, and we'll go through it. Joel is messaging me on Messenger. Hey, buddy, how did the last few minutes go? It's still going. I should just have him jump back in, but I'll leave him alone. But let's go through a couple of more questions. Mick, anything that I can kind of bring clarity to, buddy? M-I-C-K. Mick, you there? Is it Mick for Mickey? Man, I'm going to let you figure out the tech side. We're not able to hear you. And so far, we haven't had any audio issues. I'm going to skip over you, Mick. Come back to it. We're not able to hear you, buddy. Steve Archambo. Let's go through your question.
Hey, Paulson, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Fantastic. I appreciate you taking my call. Quick question for you. So I'm brand new to this industry. And so going over these niches, the flavor that I'm getting out of it is that something that you may be gifted in or like may not necessarily correlate into in success in this industry. So picking a niche, I'm looking at chiropractors.
Okay.
And so my question to you is this: I have a longtime buddy that is just retiring. He's got 30 years in chiropractic. Is there a way, a business model that we could dovetail? Because he's been thinking about coaching, and is there a way to dovetail in the marketing and him to be able to still contribute and coach? Or is it, and this might be a naive question, or is it something that you're just looking, is it maybe an add-on or something like that to a business? Can you speak to that?
Yeah. To get to 10K, no need for any of that. Right? But if you're at 100K and you're trying to go to 250,000 a month, then it makes sense to bring in a partner of some kind. So the reason why you bring in a partner is you expand your bandwidth of your outreach organically, not even paid ads, organically, right? So one of the things that we used to do back in the day is we would partner up with medical device companies. I mean, almost every medical device in the company knows us, right? And we used to wine and dine them, have them bring in referrals, blah blah blah. But this, or if you're under 100K a month, Steve, no need for any of that. Rely on yourself, bet on yourself. You don't need to bet on anybody else and what they can possibly provide. The amount of people that tell me, hey, I've got 50 more projects coming your way, Paulson. Let's get started. First one goes, second one goes, and you don't hear them after that, right? Same thing happens with referrals. You're relying on one person's small little network. Most of us have less than 2,000 people around us that we keep up with, right? So you're relying on one coach's network and what he can possibly do for you in the future. You're not going to rely on him to get to even 250,000 a month, right? Like you don't need that. Is what he provides a nice bonus? Could he come in and coach your clients? Possibly, but chiropractic is a very proven model, meaning most chiropractors can start their own agency today. That's how much that industry is educated, right? Most chiropractors can get away from their clinical thing and they can actually start their own agency because they've probably hired about 10 agencies by now and figure out all the different marketing systems, right? They hear the best of all pitches. So in my opinion, absolutely not. There's no need for it. If he says yes, sure, nice bonus. But if anything, that's going to cause a distraction for you to get to 10K or 25K or 30K a month, in my opinion. Even at 250,000 or more, you still don't need a lot of partners. You're still fairly good with 2 sales reps, 1 closer, running ads, setting up your channels, which we're going to all go through all those things that I mentioned before it's over, and we're going to be running campaigns. So yeah, hopefully that helps, Steve.
Awesome. Yes, definitely. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Mick, are you back, buddy? Let's see.
Hello,
if
can you hear me, Paulson? Can you hear
yes,
me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Well, thank you for that.
Yes.
My question is if you've got a niche that you're really passionate about, but you don't know what to offer them or what service to provide, what would you advise to go out and find what products you could or service you could give to them?
Yeah, it just tells me that you're not passionate enough to understand what their needs are yet, right? Or it hasn't taken you to the journey of researching. In the beginning, I used to be crazy about basketball. That was like, man, to this day, I play ball almost like 2-3 times. If you ask me what my ideal dream job is, to actually coach maybe a high school basketball team. If that was a high paying salary or high paying business of some kind, that's probably what I would be doing because I'm so passionate about that. I love it. I mean, I watch every NBA game. I'm crazy about Phil Jackson and the Bulls and all these people. And it doesn't change my accounts, Mick. It doesn't change anything for me and my family. So if I did go down that route, I need to still go back to this qualification rubric of like, are they selling services? Not that many services, right? No. They're all sporadic, right? So go through those rubric and then decide which industry to go into. But passion is like, passion could be a distraction, similar to motivation. Motivation gives you false hope, right? You're motivated, but it's not, activity is not happening, right? That's what I feel about that.
Yeah, it's just I come from an agricultural background, but I've been out of it for so many years. Now I've thought about tractor dealerships in the agriculture niche.
Okay.
But I don't know what pains or what the tractor dealerships have, sort of thing. Or So that's just what I wondered. You know, I love farming, I love agriculture. I just wondered. I don't know what to offer. That was it. That was a question.
I see. I see what you're saying. So maybe within the agricultural industry, there could be a subcategory that would invest into marketing or sales, right? It may not be dealers. It could be another channel of some kind. It could be like garden shops, nurseries, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
could be. It can be on the retail side. Then you still have to go back to those subcategories and see if it would. Remember, with an industry like that, number one flag, I don't even know much about it, is an education problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Imagine you turn into the best influencer in that space. Then what? You create an audience. Now you've got to turn them into an active buyer again. It's you know, it's yeah, your passion could definitely can get you to that goal. I think so. I think you can drive yourself into becoming that person and putting out as much as content as you can, educating your industry, your people, but revenue cures all diseases, and I don't see revenue there fast.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome,
All
buddy.
right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final questions? I'll take one more question and then I'll jump off. Let's see. If anybody want to unmute yourself, go for it.
Yeah. Hey, Paulson. Where are the replays located?
In the YouTube channel.
HighLevel YouTube channel or your?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Yeah. If you let me grab that link. I'm gonna put it in the chat right now because I had that tab open. That's the day one. That's the replay from yesterday. But once you go in that channel, there will be a subcategory that says the 10K in 10 days workshop. Okay, so feel free to watch your replays. If you can go back, it's only been one day. If you can go back and do the homework, it's going to help you when you go into the next day. Okay. But hopefully today was super insightful for you guys. We are building this framework based on successful agencies that we've done ourselves, not even other people. We've built it ourselves, right? So the best thing we can do at HighLevel is say, you know what, guys, we've got a formula that works. Do what you want with it. Here's how we're going to show you how to do this, right? And Joel's going to share his experiences as well. So hopefully today was a really good start for all of us. And I'll be in touch, guys. I don't want to drag this video on so it doesn't get too big and it takes too long to post the replays and all of that. If you have any other questions, just reach out to me on Slack or in the group, and I'll help answer that, okay? Have a good rest of your afternoon. The replays will be in YouTube channel. Bye-bye.
Thanks.